Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching All Things Bike live stream. And today we are speaking with Tom Brown, the founder and host of the Bicycle Karma podcast. All right, Tom, welcome to the live stream show. It's good to see you. Now,
How are you?
tell us about your connection to cycling. I mean, I've never quite heard the full story. Give us the overview.
Okay. My first bicycle was a gift that I did not want. And it was Christmas gift one year, and we had some snow today, and it was a very, very cold winter. I wanted just a ton of bric-a-brac and this and that, and had all these little things I wanted.
Yeah.
I come downstairs on Christmas morning, and there's a big bicycle-sized box. And I'm wondering how they fit all those presents that I wanted into that bicycle-shaped box. And I stared at it for a couple hours waiting for my parents to get up. I got up and then opened it up, and there was a bicycle inside, and I was so disappointed. I can tell you. I think that was the year where I turned myself off of M&Ms by eating a whole 1 pound bag in a day. I never wanted M&Ms after that.
Well, what kind of bike was it? Was it BMX or?
Oh, it was a beautiful bike, and I came to love it. But at the time, I just did not want it. It was a muscle bike, so banana seat, polo seat type thing, sissy bar. It was from Poland. It was a Tyler bike. My parents were very proud that it was Polish and acknowledged that part of our heritage. And it was a good bike. And unfortunately, I was not receptive to it at first. But as soon as the weather warmed up and spring came around, I started to really feel the freedom that it could give you. I started getting the bizarre satisfaction that one gets just doing laps on a bicycle.
I understand that.
And I would do laps over and over again in the driveway, and I could do 100 laps and just feel happy as a clam. And,
okay. Well, I mean, do you still have it, or do you have a picture of it, or is it just a mental?
I have pictures of the exact model. It was one of the convertible ones where you could take the top tube off of it, so it could be a girl's bike or a boy's bike, and it was a fairly gender neutral color. It was green.
Right.
So it was a pretty utilitarian bike. It was a good bike.
Well, you're making up for it now. I mean, you set up a podcast, and you know, you're all over the podcast world. But tell us about the inspiration for setting up a podcast. How did that come about?
Okay, so I kind of fell out of bikes for a while, and then I gained some weight in grad school. You know, going to grad school, I would stop at Taco Bell every day.
Right, and that's what grad school does to you, I think.
Yeah, they had a contest where you could win a T-shirt or something like that. I got the T-shirt and the hat. I ate so many tacos. So after grad school, I was looking at losing some weight, so I started biking again. And I kind of just had it as like a keeping in fit thing. And I had gotten a couple of bikes. My mother-in-law was into biking, so after we got married, you know, she was kind of encouraging me to bike even more and do some tours. We did one of the MS tours.
Right.
But it really wasn't the obsession that it turned into later until I found myself, I really love my job. My day job is a science teacher, and I really, really love working with kids and helping them to learn and helping them to grow in a supportive way. You know, I think about all the times I struggled learning this and learning that, and if I can help them in little ways here and there to make the road easier and to get them further along quicker, you know, that's what I enjoy. But at this point in my career, I had there was an ethics investigation against our superintendent, and there was my very good colleague of mine who was a presidential award-winning teacher was getting a lot of flack from this guy who was getting investigated. And I really just needed something to throw myself into. So that's when I really threw myself back into bikes. I started wrenching on them. I started collecting the tools.
Yeah.
That's really fast. Before this, I had like 5 specific bike tools. And now I have just about everything I think I need to do.
Yeah, I think you got everything. I mean, your board is definitely much more comprehensive than mine, which is over there. I promise you, it's over there.
There's like a lot of obsolete tools on this wall too.
Well, so you, I mean, that's sort of. So, I mean, when did you do the first podcast? I mean, how did all of this turn into a digital thing?
So then I'm kind of like always been like in high school. I was like the kid who'd walk in between different things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd be with this group and that group and this group. And I found myself going to swap meets.
Oh, yeah.
I found myself going with the roadies on some group rides through the bike shops.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started just hearing all these stories from all the different areas. And I noticed that none of the bike camps, I guess they call them tribes, the different
tribes, yeah.
BMX tribe and the mountain bike tribe and the rat bike tribe, they didn't really talk to each other so much. But I thought that I enjoy all their stories. And I'm like, maybe we could like have a place where we just share stories.
Right.
And sharing the stories could kind of make some connections and make us feel a little bit more connected as human beings. Yeah. So that was basically where, and then I tried to write a book and that didn't happen. So I tried to do a podcast and I was able to get one out. So then that was the start of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, podcasts are still hard to produce. I mean, writing a book is difficult, but putting together a podcast is got to be difficult. Tell us a little bit about the production process and how you get the story, and then what it takes to get one episode out the door.
So the show it basically it's audio recording, and I love NPR. I love This American Life. We listened to all of those on car trips when the kids were little. Yeah. Snap Judgment is like one of my favorite shows on NPR, and it's also a podcast. And I really, really enjoy Glenn Washington and his style. And so I really try to make it like that, have music in the background, but not too loud in the background. Yeah. To kind of edit the stories so it just kind of follows a story instead of more of a conversation. Right. And so I get a raw recording. I call them the raw files. And then the raw files might be, an hour. And then it takes roughly 3 to 4 hours worth of editing to get it down into like a more coherent story with some music in the background.
Yeah, right. So, wow. So there's a lot of time involved. But what makes a good episode? Is it the sound production? Is it the guest? Is it the topic? I mean, what do you look for, or the story itself?
I think a lot of it. I mean, there's this show called Lost and Found Sound, where they'll pull these scratchy old recordings out of basements and out of attics, and the stories that they tell are really good. So I try to make it so that the audio quality is as high as possible. But if there's a story that I get that is interesting enough where I can kind of try and work around it and tweak the quality of it a little bit, I'm not that is it able to tell the story is kind of like my bar for quality, which is a horrible number, because that's not a number at all. There's no quantitativeness to it. It's subjective. But if somebody can listen to somebody, even if there's a little wind in the background, even if there's trucks going by or something like that, if you can hear the story and it doesn't take away from the story, then I feel as though I did okay with that particular story, getting it out there and it's preserved forever.
I mean, it works, I think. Lots of times the story is so compelling that it makes up for the fact that you called the person on Skype or that they were standing outside. You've got so many examples of precisely that. I mean, have you ever had an interview just go off in a direction that you did not anticipate, or went to a place that was far better than what you expected, or not so better?
Sometimes I'll set up an appointment to do an interview with somebody, and then I'll finally get a chance to talk to them, and the interview that I get is not the one that I expect. I mean, I have an awesome imagination, and but it's kind of like it just goes off the rails sometimes. thinking and anticipating, but usually what I get is much more interesting than what I anticipated.
Yeah.
One time in the desert in Arizona, when I'm on family vacations and stuff like that, if I get out for a bike ride, I've always got this ready to record somebody.
Yeah.
A little windsock over the top of it, just to make it usable.
Right.
But I talked to a guy who was on the loop that goes around Phoenix, Arizona, Tucson.
Tucson, yeah. This is the Mount Lemmon one, right?
Yep. And the guy had a dog in a backpack on a tandem. And I thought, oh, that's a cute little story. Let me just ask him, maybe like a little 5-minute segment about what it's like to bike with dogs. And he ends up telling me that he went mountain biking and found a body in the woods on a group drive.
Yeah, well, that was another compelling. Was that also in Arizona? Because I thought that one happened in Vermont.
So that was my second body while riding, and I was like, wow. I read easy mysteries all the time, and it's always people hiking through the woods and biking, and they find a body. But 2 people within the same year, that's a little scary.
I guess it probably happens more frequently than we know. Well, I mean, do you have a favorite episode that you would encourage people to check out, one that worked out in terms of the story, the guest, the sound, and everything? Is there one sort of at the top of your head that?
I mean, in terms of favorite, I can't do a favorite. I mean, I really do like the eclectic mix of everything that's gone down.
Right.
Some of my favorite gets were, seeing the magpie video that went viral, where
great.
The girl's riding the bike and she's screaming, and it's hilarious, and millions of people have seen the video. But just being able to call this person,
exactly,
and reach out of the blue and do a cold call and just an email, and then she's like, "Sure, I'll tell you the whole story." And I'm like,
you're in touch with a celebrity, an internet celebrity, and right?
Exactly. That's my favorite. That's my favorite thing about that is it gives me like a social, being an introvert mostly and kind of keeping to myself most of the time. It gives me like a way to talk to people.
Yeah.
And it gives me exactly what to say. It's like, hey, I do a podcast on bikes and you're interesting. Would you like to do my show?
Yeah, no, and they go right for it. Let's talk about the podcast. Just some of the numbers, right? I mean, where do we? First of all, where do we find it? Where is it located?
So just about anywhere where you listen to podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple, really anywhere. You can Google it. You can get it on YouTube. You can get it on Spotify, all the different places. And if you can find a place where it's not, please tell me and I'll put it up.
All right. Okay, that's good. I should have put that right at the top, but that nowadays that's where that's the answer to where to find it. So give us a sense of how many people are listening to it or downloading it, or how do you measure a podcast's sort of presence?
So the thing that blows me away and makes me feel really grateful for the process is just I've had people. It's like having pen pals. I've had people in over 90 countries download it and listen to it, and my service that I use gives me a map and shows me all the different places, and I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, it's cool. And then to actually start to list the places I've gotten stories from too is starting to be pretty exciting as well. But I've still waiting for somebody from Greenland, but that's about it.
Well, there are, fat bikes are out there, and so conceivably somebody might be riding one. But right, so I mean, do they make requests? Do they reach out to you and give you feedback sort of in real time about the podcast or about the episodes?
So I try to make it so it's pretty much accessible to any person at any level who's ever smiled about a bicycle. So so there's basically an open door. I mean, the way I look at it is, people can get excited about cooking or fishing or woodworking. And what makes a really good show in those categories, I think,
Mhm.
is the humanity that comes through. It's like there's
Yeah.
a common humanity. So if you're not a woodworker per se, and you watch a really good woodworking show, you can get attached to the stories,
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of want to make it like, is so that if somebody is a novice or a pro, if somebody is in a different category or different tribe, they can listen to it and they can say, oh, I can identify with that because
Yeah.
it's got two wheels and a crank,
Yeah.
part in this story coming up, which I think I gutturally felt as I was editing it.
Mhm.
Um, this guy was biking across the country with his family, and there was a huge angry bull out in the middle of nowhere. And you're on a bicycle and feeling that vulnerable, but not only are you vulnerable with that bull, your family's there. And just how we got through that, you'll have to listen to that episode 4. But
Yeah.
I was like feeling like
Yeah.
yes, I know exactly what that would feel like. And I think anybody who's ridden a bike outside
Yeah.
would feel that too.
Yeah, that's a story that resonates on a level, beyond the bike. So I mean, is that so? That I think, I mean, my perspective is that yes, that's why the podcast resonates with so many people, because we're not just geeking out on the latest introduction of components from Shimano and Campagnolo. We're talking about broader topics. The landmark episode was interesting because there's on one of my rides, you ride by this residence where the guy was collecting snowmobiles, and they're snowmobiles from the 60s and the 70s, and it was sort of there must have been 20 of them. Anyone who's riding out in Waterboro, Maine, knows exactly what I'm talking about. But it's sort of a graphic history of the evolution of snowmobiles.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. And I get very disorientated whenever there's no landmarks around.
Yeah.
There's one area where, up over in Glastonbury across the river from us in Connecticut, where they've cleaned up all the garbage from the woods, which on one hand is really nice, but on the other hand, it's like, I get lost. I get lost in
right.
hills. There's like 3 parks that come together like a fly, and I'm like, give me a landmark for God's sakes, give me something.
Yeah, no, that's it. Directions, landmarks. Everyone can relate to that. Well, let's take a look at your Instagram feed, because there's a lot of great images there. So let me just hop over there. I'm going to share the screen, and we're going to see all the good stuff that is there. Share it up. All right, are you seeing that? You're seeing. Let's get you to the whole screen.
So
riff on that.
I really love all kinds of bikes, and I really think that there is a need to connect with each other instead of getting into smaller and smaller groups.
Yeah.
So I try to really keep a foot in all the different tribes that I know about. And as you can see from my feed, there's all kinds of different stuff there. And the key is it's all related. I mean, the mission of the show is to bring bicycle loving people from all over the world together to share stories and share their humanity. So, I mean, I've got, we've all had a flat tire, and there's one story about this lady up in Portland, and she had like 7 flat tires in a row on one ride, and she journaled them. And wrote a little like diary entry for every flat tire she had for like a month.
Oh no!
And, who wouldn't want to try an electric bike? As much as you might poo-poo them, or you might like them, you might not like. Why not? It's like, if you were willing to be comfortable with yourself enough to throw your legs over any type of bicycle, that's basically the type of person I'm looking for the show. Is somebody who's really just in love with the joy of what they're doing, and not putting lines or gates or fences on what they're doing as well. There's definitely a place for all the other kinds of bicycle shows out there. We do want to know about new components. We do want to know about, racing in this genre or racing in that genre, or, highly technical stuff in this group. But this one right here is meant to be kind of a big tent, because I haven't seen one out there, and I try and make it the show that I would want to listen to, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a little selfish in that
No,
way.
no. I mean, but I think you got the right idea. I mean, you make a big tent, and then you bring in a lot of stories, and that's another thing is that you have connected with so many different people in so many different organizations and entities and whatnot. Can you just describe some of the organizations that you've connected with as a result of this podcast?
Well, I mean, the organization that you got me hooked up with, that was an amazing story. The buddies.
Oh yeah, the bike, but best buddies.
Yeah, that was cool. The people on the greenways, people doing trail maintenance, people doing the ghost bikes. Not only people who've had a loved one have a ghost bike memorial for a loved one, but people who have taken up the charge of making sure that all their Ghost Bikes Atlanta was one where that was very touching. People doing memorial rides of silence. People getting together races. People starting bicycle schools. People starting
saving bikes.
Organizations. Saving bikes. Some people even with bike shares, the rental bikes where they're all over the place. There's organizations which are like, they see the business model of it, but they also see the what they want to happen with it. There's these bike piles of thousands and thousands and thousands of bikes for these companies that would rent bikes for 25 minutes, a half an hour, and they went bankrupt. But now there's gigantic piles of bikes in the world that have all kinds of proprietary little anti-theft parts on them that are just sitting, waiting for somebody to come up with something to do for them.
Yeah, that's right. I read about that. Well, here I've got one last question for you, and that is, you're talking to a lot of people, especially since the pandemic came through. Can you give us a sense of how the pandemic has just affected your conversations and some of the stories that you're hearing, and just the overall sentiment of doing the podcast?
I mean, well, I guess we were talking a little bit at the beginning. It's like I do want to acknowledge the struggle that everybody's having right now, but there's a lot of podcasts out there that deal with everything, and some are dealing specifically with the struggle that's going on for so many people, whether it's politics or health or finances, whatever it is, just even emotionally. There's a good podcast that's focusing directly on that. But, I want to stay at least a place where you can go and still listen to bicycle stories to help get you through until, this is resolved. So I guess I haven't gotten too many bicycle specific quarantine limited stories. The people who are sharing stories still are telling me things that they're doing that are still not being affected by the quarantine so much. So as soon as they stop pedaling, they're affected back. They're back in that world. But as long as they're literally pedaling and telling me about that pedaling experience, it's almost as if the world is normal.
Right. I mean, it's a.
So a lot of the stories, I guess, are all either from before the pandemic, or they're happening in a way where people are able to still get out and enjoy their bicycle, and it gives them a little break from the craziness.
Right. It's a sanctuary. It's riding your bike is a sanctuary, and at least for me anyway.
It's a sanctuary for some. Riding bikes is a sanctuary for others.
Yeah. All righty. Well, that's great, Tom. Thanks so much for spending some time with us and letting us know about the podcast. And we got another one coming up pretty soon, I think, right?
Yep. It'll come out really soon. Yeah, I'm working on it now. And,
yeah.
Apologies for being so late. The world's a little crazy.
No, I know everyone's busy, but it's anticipated, and I can't wait to hear it. And hey, thanks so much, and I'm gonna do the outro, and we'll talk to you soon.
And for being a great supporter, and for just being there to bounce ideas off of, and you've been a great resource as well, and you're in one of the episodes. So
I know, it's my pleasure. I feel like a celebrity, although I'm not. It doesn't matter to me. It's if it helps your effort, I'm happy with it, and you just never know who you're going to reach nowadays, especially with a podcast.
Thanks a lot, Fred.
Thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Sure.
All right, everybody. That was Tom Brown, the founder and host of the Bicycle Karma podcast. You can find that podcast on Podbeam, Apple, anywhere you normally get your podcasts. That's all we got for now. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you again.